Hello, I'm Carla. This here is Liz. Today we are working with a little bit of a backbend class. It is a short class. With backbends, just be cautious of your back. If you do have any back issues, slip disc injuries, any issues really, just do the backbends with a little bit of caution, and anything that doesn't feel comfortable or doable for you, back off and just don't do that pose for now. We are starting in Svastikasana. Svastikasana is a cross-legged position. Once you're seated in cross legs, you want the knees to settle down. You want the spine to lift up tall. If when you are seated, your spine sags down and you're unable to get the sacrum to really lift up, you want to be on the buttock bones, then taking a little bit of height, folded blanket is perfect to get that lift up from the buttock bones through the sides of the body, extending the spine. We're going to begin the class with the 3 arms. So bringing the hands together in the prayer position, let your eyes close. When you close your eyes, make sure that you don't slump the spine. So keep that lift up of the chest, that extension of the spine. Bringing your focus to your body, to your breath. Each exhalation, relax the skin of the face, soften the shoulders, relax the knees and thighs down. And here, as you take soft, gentle inhalations and exhalations, just bringing your focus to your mat in preparation for your practice today. Coming to the breath again. Be sure that the spine is well extended, the chest is well opened, shoulders are back and away from the ears. With that lift of the chest, on the next exhalation, drop your chin down. And then take a moment here just to give thanks for the health and strength of your body and your dedication in coming to your mat. On the next breath out, release the hands into the lap, lift your head up and open your eyes. So we're just doing a few warming up poses to begin with, starting in Adho Mukha Virabhadrasana. So coming to the back end of your mat, you'll take your knees apart and your toes together. When you come to Virabhadrasana, make sure that you take the knees apart sufficiently so that this cushy inner thigh will support the sides of the body. Once you've got that distance, you can even move the shin out, the knee out to lengthen the shin, and you want to keep the buttocks grounded to the heels. Extending forward with the hands, coming to Adho Mukha Virabhadrasana. In Adho Mukha Virabhadrasana, you're keeping the hands shoulder distance apart so that you've already prepared the space for Adho Mukha Svanasana, your downward dog. In Adho Mukha Virabhadrasana, you're looking for this lovely extension of the side body, full length of the arms, but you also want to retract and ground the buttocks down. So if your buttocks fly up, putting a little bit of pressure into the hands will get the buttocks to descend to the heels. Taking the hands, spreading the hands apart in preparation for Adho Mukha Svanasana. In Adho Mukha Virabhadrasana, you can let go the head. You can rest the head on the floor. And very important here, as well as in Adho Mukha Svanasana, is to keep the tricep coiling towards the face so that this area here, the top shoulder, is free. Inhale, and as you exhale, push onto all fours. You're going to turn the toes under, lift the buttocks, and come to Adho Mukha Svanasana. It's the first Adho Mukha Svanasana of your practice, so don't be concerned about getting the heels down for now. Just figure out the length of the spine, the straightness and strength in the legs, the strength in the arms. length through the sides of the body. And this outer hip region here, you want to lift up and move back. And as you move from the outer hip back, as you move the front thigh back, hopefully then the heels will start to descend. You only all hold Adho Mukha Svanasana, or any pose really, as long as you're able to. If you're feeling any discomfort in the pose, come down, you can approach it again. You're going to release down to Adho Mukha Virasana at any point in time. From this Adho Mukha Virasana position, once you've recovered your breath, come back to Adho Mukha Svanasana. Adho Mukha Svanasana is a wonderful pose to work your flexibility. It's excellent for bearing weight on the arms, upper body strength, stretching the spine. Keep remembering to coil the triceps towards the face. If this is an action that's difficult for you and you tighten in the shoulders, you can also take the fingers and point them out slightly. From Adho Mukha Svanasana, we're going to come now to the plank position, Phalakasana. So keeping the arms strong, control the abdomen, you're going to come down into the plank position. You want to be sure that the front thighs are working strongly and your abdomen is working strongly. If you let go of the hips and the thighs, then this collapses down, and that's not the plank position. Grip the thighs, the outer hips, engage the abdomen. Your breath will change here, but you do need to keep breathing, pressing the floor away from you. In your own time, when you've had enough of plank position, you come back to Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. From Adho Mukha Svanasana, you can release down to Adho Mukha Virasana. So we're just starting slow, warming up the body, warming up the arms, the legs, and the spine. Once you've rested in Adho Mukha Virasana, we're going to come back to Adho Mukha Svanasana. And from this Adho Mukha Svanasana, we're going to be going into upward facing dog. So the first upward facing dog, we're going to keep the heels up. It's much easier for beginners to practice that way. You're going to exhale, come forward as if you're coming through the plank, and on an inhalation, lift the chest. You want to keep the thighs strong, move the buttock flesh towards the heels, push the floor away from you, and most importantly, remember to breathe. With the heels up like this, the thighs are well lifted off the floor, so it's a much easier Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. In your own time, pressing into the hands, lifting the hips, shooting the buttocks back, come back to Adho Mukha Virasana. So Adho Mukha Virasana, knees to the floor, and rest. We're going to, once you've had a rest, we're going to come back to Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, the upward facing dog. So coming to downward facing dog first. Now we'll do the more classic pose where you're turning over the tops of the feet. So once you're in it, you either roll over the tops of the feet or flip the feet. The important thing here is to keep the legs strong. You can see here her knees and her thighs are off the floor. You don't let that collapse to the floor. Breathe, lift your chest, breathe, open across the collarbones, breathe, exhale, move the buttocks away from the back waist. And when you're ready, push into the hands, flip the feet, come back to Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog, and one last Adho Mukha Virasana to release. If you have time, you can do these over and over again. They will warm up the body really nicely. Well done. So we're coming now to Tadasana. Tadasana, you're standing in Tadasana in the mountain pose where your feet are together, your spine is alert, the sides of the body are extended. So Tadasana, it's the basic standing pose, the mountain pose. And if you look at Tadasana, when you come into back bends, you want this length in the lumbar spine. So for a lot of people, they stick out the buttock and that scrunches the lumbar spine. Some people stand with their groins forward. So you want to make sure that the front thigh moves back and the buttock flesh stays down. If you can keep the front thigh back, your buttocks down and the middle buttock forward, you should get a nice lift in that abdominal region. Tadasana, this Tadasana action of the spine, where you're keeping the spine long and lengthened, is very, very important for back bends. You don't want to do a back bend and just throw into the lumbar spine. From Tadasana, we're going to come to Utkatasana. So first, Urdhva Tadasana. And this length you've got on the front and back body, you want to keep that. As you exhale, you're going to bend the knees, sit back as if you're coming to sit on a chair. Keep the weight off the toes. You can keep the toes down, but don't throw the weight of the knees forward. Keep the lift of the shin. Don't forget to breathe. You lock your elbows. If you lift your gaze, it helps to lift the chest also. And then when you've been there for a few breaths, you will exhale and pushing into the feet, inhale, lift up, release the hands at your sides. In Utkatasana, again, just remember when you sit down, you're not arching the back and throwing the buttocks out. You also are not curling the back and throwing the groins forward. Utkatasana is a very strong pose, lovely pose to do as a warm-up for back bends. So we'll repeat one more. Urdhva Hastasana arms. And as you exhale, controlling the abdomen back, moving the flesh of the buttocks down, keeping the lift of the shins. Breathe. Breathe. Even though they're short, sharp breaths, you have to breathe. See, can you exhale? Can you descend a little bit more into your sit? And when you've held it to your capacity, you push into the heels, reach up with the arms, release the hands. And this Tadasana is a soft Tadasana where you're just catching your breath. We're going to come now to Virabhadrasana number 1. Virabhadrasana 1 is the warrior pose. The warrior pose and Utkatasana are very good poses to strengthen the thighs. They also help to develop your stamina in some of these back bends. Virabhadrasana 1, you can do it various ways. As a beginner, you can stand at the back of your mat and simply just step forward to come into the pose. The more classic way, stand in the middle of your mat. You're going to bring your fingertips to the chest, and to take the feet apart, you either step or jump the feet apart. Don't jump if you have any injuries or if you are a beginner. So inhale and either step or jump the feet apart. Take the feet well apart so that when you bend the front leg to Virabhadrasana 1, you get a nice right angle. In the classic Virabhadrasana 1, you keep the arms out like an aeroplane. So we're going to turn the hips to the right, turn the left foot deeply in, turn the hips completely to the right. This left foot has to come out. The arms out in this position, this is called Vimasana. That helps you to balance a bit. You're going to turn the whole bicep to face up and then take the arms up over your head. Keep the hands shoulder distance apart for now. When you exhale, again, be mindful of this length in the lumbar spine. So as I exhale and bend the front knee, lengthen the lumbar spine, move from the middle buttock forward to bend that front knee. You want to come to a 90 degree, so you need to sit the right buttock down. To keep the hips turned to face the right knee, you need to turn this left inner thigh out. You can turn the back foot a little bit more. Breathe. Each exhalation as you sit into that right buttock, don't let the lift of the chest collapse. Each inhalation, as you lengthen the spine, reach up into the arms, don't let the buttocks come up. If you'd like to take a look, take your hands up, hands together and look up, then that is how you complete Virabhadrasana 1. When you're ready, you're going to again straighten that front leg, turn, and in this halfway position, rest your shoulders, rest your arms, catch your breath. Sometimes the feet misalign in Virabhadrasana 1, so lining up the feet again. Right. Once you extend the arms out the sides into Utthita Hasta Padasana, again, you're going to turn to the left by turning the right foot deeply in, take the right heel out, the right inner thigh rolls back to bring that right hip forward, the left hip comes back. With this extension across the chest, turn the whole upper arm to face the ceiling and then extend the arms to Urdhva Hastasana. Strong back leg, and as you exhale, lengthen the lumbar spine, move the middle buttock in to bend that front knee. When you bend the front knee, try to keep the toes relaxed. You're stomping into the heel and keeping that shin secure. Turn that right hip to face forward, breathe. And as you extend and look up, you can take the palms together. In Virabhadrasana 1, palms together is the classic pose. If you have vertigo or any neck injuries, don't look up. And then in your own time, straightening this left leg, Turn the hips and the feet, release the hands and step the feet together. Have a rest here in Tadasana. Now we're coming to some floor back bends. So it's important to warm up your body, your back in some of these easier back bends that we're going to be working on today. The Sphinx pose is called Salamba Bhujangasana. Bhujangasana is the cobra. Salamba Bhujangasana is the sleeping cobra. You're going to lie on your abdomen. Once you've laid down, you can lift one leg at a time just to extend the front thigh and open up that hip flexor region. In the Sphinx, you're bringing your elbow underneath your shoulder. So you're resting on your forearms. Bring the forearms in line with the shoulders, so don't have them too wide. And now if you grip into the forearm, you're able to maybe lift that breastbone and pull it forward. In back bends, it's important to not scrunch into the shoulders and the chest. So as you pull into the forearms, lift the chest, broaden across the collarbones, release that top shoulder down. One of the most important things in a back bend is to continue with your breath. It might not be a long, beautiful, flowing breath, but keep breathing, especially in back bends, because you can get what is called a back bend headache. In this Sphinx position, the pelvis is on the floor. Keep moving the buttock flesh towards the heels. When you've been there for a few breaths, you can come down. And now we're bringing the hands next to the chest for Bhujangasana. Spread the palm like you do for Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Keep the legs straight and then lift yourself up. In the classic Bhujangasana, you do straighten the arms completely, but because the pelvis is jammed against the floor, this can be quite problematic for some people. Keep the elbows bent. It helps to strengthen the arms. Keep lifting the chest, relaxing the shoulders, broadening across the collarbones. As you breathe in, lift the breastbone. As you exhale, feel, can I get the buttock flesh towards the heels? And again, be there only for as many breaths as you're able. When you're ready, you exhale, release, coming down. Right. All of these poses, you can repeat them pretty regularly. They will help to develop strength because you're working against gravity. We're coming now to Salabhasana. Salabhasana is a little bit more intense than Bhujangasana. The hands, you can rest your forehead on the floor. The hands are at the sides. Now, if I just lift the hands, the shoulders stay down. So when you lift up, think about lifting the whole arm. When you're ready, you can keep the legs on the floor for the first one. Lift the chest and the head like you do in Bhujangasana. The palms can face each other in Salabhasana. You're lifting the shoulder as much as you're lifting the hand. Breathe. Don't forget to breathe. And then in your own time, relax and settle down. We'll repeat Salabhasana. In the classic Salabhasana, you want the legs to come up also. So, on an inhalation, exhale, and come up. Breathe. Feel how the back muscles must work, but don't allow the buttocks to creep up. Lift the chest. Extend the arms back to get more openness across the collarbones. When you've breathed and breathed and breathed again, when you've held it to your capacity, exhale, release, and come down. We did Urdhva Mukha Svanasana from downward facing dog. Now we're going to do it from the floor. In Bhujangasana, you had your hand in line with the shoulder. In Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, upward facing dog, you want the hands more or less in line with the rib cage. Here, you're going to straighten the arms, but the pelvis is going to come off the floor. So when you're ready, press the feet into the floor, push the floor away from you on the inhalation, you're lifting the chest, and breathe. Keep breathing. If it's within your practice to look up, you can look up for classic Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. If it's a challenge for you, if you have vertigo or blood pressure issues, keep the head normal. Breathe. Keep lengthening the lumbar spine. Breathe. And in your own time, when you're ready, bend the elbows, lower yourself down. You can put the knees on the floor first, or you can just come straight down. Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, a wonderful, wonderful pose. So we're going to do it again. Hands next to the rib cage. Push the floor away from you. Breathe in as you lift the chest. If you have trouble with the back, you can take the feet apart in Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. Liz has got them together. That's the classic pose. When you've had enough, exhale. You can either take the knees to the floor and lower yourself down, or you can try and lower yourself down without the knees on the floor. When you take the feet hip distance apart, it gives you a little bit of space in the sacrum. Another action that you want to try and remember in back bends is not to clench the buttocks so madly, but from the inner thigh to kind of give space across the back thigh. With the feet hip distance apart like this, you can give yourself that room to move. So try another Urdhva Mukha Svanasana where you've got that openness in the pelvis and the sacrum. And again, you only do as much as you can. From here, once you've rested, turn your feet under. Come back to downward facing dog. Here, this downward facing dog is going to help release the spine. You want to get a complete release of the back muscles here as you stretch the sides of the body. Keep moving the root of the thigh and the front thighs back, pressing into the hands. To rest completely, take your knees to the floor, knees apart, toes together. Settle the buttocks back down in Adho Mukha Virabhadrasana. And now, because you're resting here, let the arms bend, let the elbow and the forearm rest on the floor so that there's complete release and softness in the shoulders. If you're using Adho Mukha Virabhadrasana as a release after any pose, if you struggle to get your head down to the floor, you can always prop a blanket to support the forehead on a blanket. If you struggle to get your buttocks down to the heels, you can place a blanket under the heels, under the buttocks, so that there's some contact between the buttock and the heels. Walking your hands back and coming to seated. There's one more back bend that we want to try. Ustrasana is also a beginner back bend. You're going to take your blanket onto the floor. This gives you a little bit of softness for your shins. Take your whole knee and your shin right to the toes on the blanket. If you're unable to get this extension of the ankle, you can prop up the blankets and let the toes fall off so that there's not so much of a strong extension. In Ustrasana, you're keeping the knees hip distance apart. If you battle to get your hands down to your feet in Ustrasana, then you take either a bolster or a stack of blankets so that there's something there for you to be able to grip into. The shin is the foot of the pose. You want to lift the thighs, keep the buttock flesh down, keep the middle buttocks in, lift the chest and take the hands back towards the support. Keep lifting the chest, opening across the collarbones. You can let the head drop back if it's within your practice to do so. Just be careful of any neck injuries. When you feel ready to come up, pressing into the shins, lift the shoulder blade region to come up. If you're able to get your hands on the feet, then you can remove the blanket, yeah? So when you're ready, again, you want to keep this perpendicular shape, so don't let the pelvis come too far forward or too far back. Once your hands are on your feet, lift the chest, feel a lift from the front, from the knee to the front thigh. Don't push your pelvis forward. Don't sit the buttocks back, perpendicular thighs. Keep breathing, even though it's shorter, sharper breaths, keep breathing. And then when you're ready to come up, pressing into the shins, come up, and to release, just sit on your heels. Take a few breaths here. We're going to come to a back release, which not just a release for after back bends, but it's a wonderful practice to do if you have any back issues. You're going to lie flat on the floor with your feet up against the wall. You want to imagine that if I was sitting on a chair, the chair has fallen over, yeah? So the shins are parallel to the floor. You can move a little bit closer to the wall. The thighs, that's enough. The thighs are perpendicular to the floor. Your back is rested, back of the neck is long. If you need a blanket for your head, you would take one for your head here. Right. Here, as you exhale, empty the abdomen, let the lower back settle to the floor. If you put a little bit of pressure onto the feet, don't push yourself off the wall, but putting a little bit of pressure into the feet should press the back down a little bit more, getting a little bit more release in the back. Keep the throat soft, jaw quiet, and have a few breaths here. So we haven't done too many back bends today. These are all really nice beginner back bends that you can practice, and you can do them as regularly and as often as you like. When you're ready, we're going to do one last release. You're going to bring your knees to your chest, cross your shins, holding one foot in each hand. Just roll from side to side. You can roll around in circles. You can rock up and down, just massaging the back, feeling what feels good and what feels releasing. Then changing the cross of the shins the other way. Rolling out the spine, rolling out the back. And when you feel that your back has had enough little TLC, we can now come to Savasana. In Savasana, you're going to take a blanket support for under your head. You don't necessarily need it. It's nice to have a little bit of softness for under the head. It supports the head and the neck. And especially if when you lie down, if your head rolls back, if your chin is higher than the forehead, then absolutely take a blanket. Bend the knees in Savasana. And first, as Liz did, do a pelvic tilt. So you want to make sure that from the top shoulder, the skin and the flesh of the shoulder blades has released down. Once you've adjusted that, move the flesh of the buttocks away from the back waist, and then one at a time, extend the legs out. With the legs extended, let the feet flop out to the side. Let the feet feel relaxed. The palm is soft. The fingers curl naturally into the hand. There's an openness across the collarbones, a length in the back of the neck. And then you're just taking soft inhalations and exhalations here. When you're ready, let the eyes close. And with the eyes closed, take your focus completely to your breath. Soft inhalations, peaceful, quiet exhalations. Feel the effects of the back bends on your body. If you're not used to back bends, these poses have worked a lot of those back muscles. So really just let the back settle to the floor. And you're taking just a few quiet, peaceful breaths in Savasana. You can be in Savasana for as long as you want or need. To come out of Savasana, you're going to start just working with the inhalation, taking deep inhalations. Bring your hands anywhere to rest on your torso. You can leave the elbows on the floor. On the next breath in, stretch your arms over your head. Give your body a long, deep stretch, yawn or side breath out. Bending your knees, you're going to roll onto your right-hand side. Stay in that fetal position for a moment where this left side of the body is just holding you in this Savasana state. Your head is being cradled by your right hand. When you feel ready, you're going to come up slowly, bringing the head up last. And then you're coming to sit in whatever comfortable position works for you. Bring the hands to the prayer position. Just close your eyes for a moment. Feel the effects of the pose on your body. When you feel ready, you're going to gently let the eyes flutter open and focus. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.